there's some Revelator songs that I'm like, man, we got to bring those back. But we've done so many songs and albums. There's like so much to choose from that I guess we don't think about it all the time.
We need to get you a really good slide player in Nashville, and you guys need to cover a Derek Trucks song.
You know, he told me Susan wrote the song, which he was proud of. He said that with great pride, you know, the way you say nice things about your family.
From the first note with Tedeschi Trucks, they just blow you away.
Yes, we will. I wouldn't argue with anyone that says that could be my favorite song on I Am the Moon.
He, signs my ticket, and I look over at Susan. I say, Susan, would you sign it too? And she goes, oh, heck yeah.
Kevin calls me and was like, hey, man, what are you doing? I was like, nothing. He was like, Derek wants to record some tuba stuff. I said, when do you want to do it? And he was like, let's do it Wednesday.
It was Midnight Harlem. And it caught our attention, man. And we started diving deep, and we're like, okay, we got to see these guys.
Sup? Welcome to the unofficial Tedeschi Trucks podcast. This is episode number 160, and I am Adam Choit. To follow the show, it's at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram and YouTube. Just search Tedeschi Trucks Podcast. If you're watching, you're already there, so please be sure to subscribe. Share the show, give the show likes. That's all appreciated. Positive comments are appreciated, of course. As are positive reviews on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe on whatever platform you listen to podcasts. I'll definitely be putting out an audio version of this episode as well. As I always, of course, TedeschiTrucksPodcast.com for everything else. One-stop shop for everything related to the show. All the related links. AdamChoit.com for everything else. TTB, we thought was off touring for a few weeks. Up until was it Grand Junction show, some Colorado show, and then the two at Red Rocks. But they did a secret club members only show at the Cabot in Beverly, Mass. And that, I think, was an awesome show. From what I gather, it was a scaled back Fireside live show, billed as such, from what I understand. Zac Transport was there, frequent contributor to this podcast. So I'm going to bring him on to tell me all about his experience at this show. And I got some pictures in the set list here. And I think thank you, Mark Davidson. I think we just posted the show, which he taped on the archive and the different apps. I think I must have clicked on it, like I was telling Zach before we're recording that. I think I was clicking on it as it was like still uploading. But I think it's coming. And I saw some stuff on YouTube as well and was listening to some of that. But I'm going to bring on Zach, who was actually there to talk about it. What's up, dude?
Hey, how you doing, Adam? How you doing, TTB unofficial podcast listeners and viewers?
we're here.
Cool.
Good to see you again. Excited to chat about this one. You're home. You're in Massachusetts. Right?
Yes, sir. Massachusetts, as pretty easy to get to the show because it was also in Mass, so local show, and doing pretty good over here.
How far away from the venue are you? Where are you?
Yeah, so I'm coming out of Natick, so Beverly, so it was about hour drive, but with the traffic and everything, give an extra half hour or so because there's construction on 93 and all that. Everybody knows that split there if you're local around here, that driving through that area, heading towards the northern part, toward New Hampshire, or the split toward Providence, that traffic just builds up and it's a nightmare to get there. But the drive home is super easy because, after around midnight or so, everything lessens up and it was just smooth sailing home. So not too bad. Nice. Overall, I'd say an hour and a half to an hour.
Nice. And in terms of what you're comfortable sharing with people, how did you find out about this show? Were you a member of the Cabot beforehand? Did you join this just to see TTB show? Because I think you've done that. Other people will do that, which I guess is it's what they want to. They want to entice people to get memberships by.
That's right.
But how did you find out about this?
Yeah. So yes, this was a secret show, and how I found out about it. So Well, I'm kind of upset with how I found out about it because it should have been kept a secret. But as we all know, in the TTB ticket buying market, there are third-party websites, and there are unofficial ways to get tickets to things. And sometimes, most times, those platforms end up having tickets that they don't really have to sell, and they scam people out of tickets. And I saw a date pop up when I was looking for TTB shows just on Google for the Boston area shows, and I saw a June 28th date pop up. And I was very confused as to why that date popped up, because I was like, that's not on the tour anywhere. And so I reached out to the venue that the ticket was supposedly attached to, because it seemed like an inexorbitant amount of money for the ticket that this scam website was asking. And the venue did in fact confirm that they had a members-only show available with tickets only available to purchase to members of the Cabot Theater for the very first time, a private, headline members-only show, which they were trying to basically help bring more major headlines to the community and creating the private events not advertised to the general public to allow them to get larger acts. So they have another secret show announced, again, only for members, and I will not tell that show date or name, because if you want to know, you can subscribe to their $5 a month subscription for a tier, that's their lowest tier, which gives you access to the pre-sales and knowledge of the memberships. And they're a 501c organization, so they're like it's a donation that you're giving, all the way up to like a turquoise member, which is like super high up there and whatever. You get all sorts of different benefits. But it's a great little community theater in Beverly, and yeah, so you'll see even Build. They didn't announce the Tedeschi Trucks Band as the artist. It was only really for if you were inside and asked, if you could sign up for that day. And they have, $60 a year, whatever. So Adam, for our audio listeners, has pulled up a photo of the Cabot Theater that I took on the intersection of the Main Street and Judson Street, where you can see us on the marquee, a question mark and lights, where it says members only show, and it says the date June 28th, Cabot Theater. And it's an old converted, it's like a historic theater, a movie theater that was refurbished and renovated. The seats have are basically brand new, just been completely redone top to bottom. There's way more leg room in the balcony. It's lovely. 850 seats, so a much smaller venue than say the 19,850 seat venue that is the TD Garden, where they did the garden party recently. So what a humbling experience to be in such a small venue and to see them. So that was essentially how I found out about the show was through.
So you did join to?
I did. Yes,
because of TTB.
Yeah. So I
was gonna say that's an interesting way to find out about secret shows, because I guess that the members only thing that TTB has done multiple times at least.
Right.
Just Google Tedeschi Trucks Band and upcoming gigs, or look at some of those ticket broker websites, because you'll never know what might pop up, even if it's a scam. It's a scam based on an existing show. There's no secret shows in California, although not really.
I don't know, but I know that as of this date that we're recording, the day before, so June 29th, there was a private event that they were heading to after the show at the Cabot. And I believe the confirmed location was Connecticut, but I've heard others say that they heard New Hampshire. So there could be two other secret shows out there.
Yeah, well, those are private events. That's not necessarily open to anyone. You got
exactly. Invite only, and I'm not invited. So and that's okay.
I forget. Was it? I think it was Ivan. Ludwin was telling me he went to a private game show.
Right.
Baltimore area, Maryland area, something like DC area,
someone's home.
Yeah, it's like the day after a TTB show, and it's right. Yeah, I mean that's cool that that they do these. They just love playing. I think. Yeah. I mean, obviously it's nice to be compensated, and it's just Yeah, they play. I think they even played Mark Davidson, who did the recordings. He was telling me that I think he saw Derek around town or something playing somewhere, or
Yep.
played at some jazz club after the show.
Yeah, no, so I'll tell you about that, too. So there was a club across the street called Chianti, and so I actually took down notes about this. So unfortunately, Derek and Susan and Mike and Gabe and Brandon and Isaac showed up, to Chianti after the show, because there was a band playing afterward. But people saw them come into the venue. People were like clapping, excited. They went off into the green room. They went up off to the stage, to stage right or whatever. Stood off to the side. The band playing saw them, waved them on, but they declined, so they didn't come on. So they watched from the wings, and then about just before maybe 3 songs left in the entire set, so just before maybe midnight or so, it informed around the bar that Derek and Susan and everybody else, they had left, they'd cut out. So and then the band wrapped up around midnight. So they didn't actually appear to play, they appeared to view, to listen. And the reason for that, potentially is because the load in load out time was pretty strict. The Cabot sent out an email saying that the show was going to start promptly at 8 and promptly at 10. We've seen the band before have strict venue guidelines where they have to load out pretty quick, and I would imagine that it was difficult to have everyone get guitars, amps, and stuff super quick across the street, super late at night, to be able to do a quick turnaround thing. But it would have been very cool if they did come out on stage. That would have been neat.
Of course. No, it's cool that they just go to these other gigs and just to hang out that. They like to go to shows. I think I saw Susan posted. Well, they went to they were at that Willie Nelson. I don't know if they was there, but Outlaw Tour show they popped up on.
Yeah, so the Outlaw Music Festival, the Willie Nelson and Lucas Nelson family band and all that stuff. Bob Dylan's on that tour, and Alison Krauss. I think a couple dates Billy Strings. But what happened was Willie Nelson is recovering from being sick. He's out. So it was actually unbelievable timing, because Susan earlier that day had posted that she and Derek were in Atlanta and were going and excited to go to see the Willie Nelson concert. The Outlaw Music Festival as attendants, going as fans, and then it was later announced that Willie Nelson was going to be was sick and was not going to be appearing, and that there would be some special guests, and Derek and Susan, humbly stepped in. You could see they weren't even playing their guitars; they were playing 2 identical guitars that were from the rig, from the backup from the Lucas Nelson team. So it's not they didn't even come prepared to play. They had they found out that Willie was sick same time everyone else.
Gotcha. Kirk Anderson. Hey, Zach, can you explain unofficial archivist just learning about y'all?
Oh, sure.
You're a setlist.fm contributor and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. So this last tour, I've really been digging my heels into doing what I've been passionately doing for myself, and I realized I'm being selfish by just making all these notes and making lists of set lists for myself and keeping things accurate. And Setlist FM is great. It's crowdsourced, and everyone's been doing a wonderful job out there. And sometimes I can see, though, certain songs are missed or are just following the paper set lists, which I'll even show tonight. I have a paper set list from the Cabot versus the set list that was actually played, and we have our lovely tapers to thank for most of these shows that can be verified, to make sure that the set list that is on FM is the same as the set list that was actually played by the band. It's great for historical documentation purposes. So I have been, working to do a series, for example, on the app and in the fan pages called the Today in TTB History, where I've been going through Setlist FM, as well as my own notes, as well as the archive for different tape newspapers, and been kind of like going through the old news articles and publications and making sort of a condensed social media post recapping every show for the current date. So today would be June 30th, so I would go and make a post for that. So I'll probably do that sometime after we record this. That'll be my day. I think maybe actually, or I think I posted it earlier today, if I recall, actually.
Yeah, that's all. I appreciate it. And Kirk
Yeah.
is the same. Kirk is the same. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, you guys need to connect because he's a nutty fan like us. It's hard for me to say anyone is over the top too passionate about this band and to engage with them and to working too hard, committing too much time to this band. I'm not the person to be saying that about anyone else. But yeah, that's super cool that you keep track of all that. I mean, sometimes I feel like I need to do a better job of just like being more organized with not even just necessarily podcast related thing. That's for sure, but just like memorabilia. I have ticket stubs not all in the same place. Things are not framed. I still need to get a case for this Derek slide and all this stuff, and get more organized with what shows I've been to. I feel like it can always get more organized with stuff. Yeah, let's I guess dive into the show. And
I've got a book, a little binder.
Yeah, you take notes. Jeff Fink also takes notes at the show.
Well, like a book like for keeping all my set lists and ticket stubs and notes and things like that. Yeah, so more than just that. Yeah.
Yeah, I take notes. I feel like I take notes when more like sometimes watching the show. I guess I didn't take notes for the Greek Berkeley shows, but sometimes the Red Rocks I'll take notes. Or I took a lot of notes during the Fireside or the I Am the Moon films when those were all with the music. I had extensive, crazy notes about that. But when I'm at the show, I kind of not too crazy with the notes.
You could write a Lord of the Rings like thick analysis on I Am the Moon if you wanted to.
Yeah, maybe I will.
Yeah. So for our audio listeners, Adam has graciously brought up my photo from the show where I was outside the venue in Beverly, standing looking at the layout list of all of the shows and artists that would be appearing at the Cabot, and I focused in specifically on the Friday, June 28th date.
Is this a wall? This is a wall where this
it's a poster that's behind glass.
Okay.
But the poster is the text. It makes it appear bigger in this photo, but it's actually like multiple columns, like 2 or 3 columns across. It's a pretty small text, and it's basically just like hidden in there. And so it says, if you'll scroll back, it says the Cabot's secret show, members only. And so I signed up for the membership back all the way in like whenever the most recent drop of tickets for the October Boston shows, when those went out, this show went also on pre-sale, and so I bought my ticket that way. And so there's the ticket there. And if you zoom in, actually, you'll see. So I've got a photo of the ticket in front of the venue. I'm sitting at a cafe across the street. But my section, my row originally was LL, so I was all the way up in the balcony, way in the back. And I realized that I wanted to move up closer because I realized it was very, very far back. So this shot here is taken in the balcony on the guardrail in the, I guess you would call it the upper balcony if we're talking like comparing the beacon, right? So like upper balcony, lower balcony, of like the back part versus the front part. And so this photo that Adam has up was taken around like 5 o'clock. In the afternoon, and you're like, showtime was, doors open at 7 and theater open and show started at 8. So how did this photo get taken at 5 and the band members were on the stage? So graciously, when I was in the box office doing a ticket exchange to move up to the second row in the balcony, I was able to hear that they were doing some tappings on the mics and laying stuff out, and I became friends with the house manager, and I have to say that this was an absolute privilege and is not something that is expected, but was rather like a gracious honor and a privilege that happened, and I will say that it's not something that will happen normally for others, but if you are kind and gracious and make sure that you don't disturb anyone and do things like in a way that you're kind of like fly on the wall, you can make friends with folks. And the house manager was gracious, Carla, and let me go up to the balcony and sit in as a fly on the wall along with her for a couple songs. But I went up there for the whole time and was able to sit through the sound check at this
cool.
small venue.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
so cool. And I think what helped probably is that it was a very small show.
Absolutely.
Show. They're not letting me into the sound check at Red Rocks or the BM
God, no.
probably. But at this small show, and knowing that you are a member of the club now, so it's like a little bit it's a little bit more enticing
right.
to renew your membership.
Oh, absolutely.
Even if TTB is not necessarily going to be
right
coming, on the playing there anytime soon.
Right.
Yeah,
and this venue is not new to them as well. They'd played there before in 2021. So, and that was a publicly announced show, if I recall. But it was again, I think it was something that people found out about last minute.
Yeah. Now I'm jealous of you. Get out of here. You got to go now. I'm with this conversation.
But so let me explain the photo for what's going on for folks. So first of all, it's an 850 seat venue. So I would say roughly maybe smaller than the Capitol Theater Portchester, but a similar layout where if you scroll up a little bit in that photo, you might see the chandelier.
Yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah. So it's got really, really intricate artwork. It's been renovated. It's absolutely gorgeous, beautiful, and they have a whole explanation for the renovations on their website. Anyway, so this photo here has all the band members who appeared on the show that night. Plus, we've got the sound engineer for the group, Bobby Tees, over there standing behind Gabe Dixon. So from left to right, we've got Gabe Dixon behind the keys and the organ, and then we've got Derek Trucks behind him, Falcon, so Tyler Falcon Greenwell, and then next to Derek is Susan. Behind Susan is Isaac Eady on drums, and then next to Susan on her left is Mike Madison on guitar and harmony vocals, and then all the way off to stage left is Brandon Boone on bass.
He got cut off on some of those videos.
Yeah.
So it's okay.
Yeah, it's a very tight stage, and so it explains why they had the Fireside, the condensed personnel, because for one thing, the horns, there was really no spot for horns, and there's no area to put a riser for backup vocals. So
they could make it work if they wanted.
They could if they wanted to. But I'll get into what's actually interesting about the room and to why it made sense also for less instruments too. So I took some extensive notes during sound check, and yeah, so I made those available. If you want to read them in full, they're available on Facebook and in the app. But I'm just going to pick out some parts that I thought were really interesting. So the first thing that Susan had to say after they played through, so that they did a little bit of noodling at the front, and then they basically ran through Where Are My Friends? All the way through, but a shortened version. And right afterwards, Susan basically said that the room was really warm and things were just kind of melding together. Now, I'm not sure if she meant that in a way where, it sounded great, which I think she did, but then also in the sense that it might be hard for the mix to kind of distinguish, certain instruments from other things because things were blending so well. And the noise ceiling, so if you think about an amphitheater, when the sound goes out and then reflects against the back wall and then comes back, depending on the layout and configuration and how the overhang is, the reverb going back to the audience might sound great, but to the band, when it hits them off the wall, it can sometimes hit them directly in the face, which is awesome because then they can get that clear mix, and then they don't really need the floor speakers to be reliant too heavy, right? But if the layout is configured in a way where it's like an old vaudevillian theater, right? What happens is the sound, when it bounces back, is it actually goes over the musician's head. So there's a high ceiling, right? So that center point, it doesn't reach out that well, so the musicians kind of hear this muffled bounce back sound. So it was getting kind of blended and a little bit difficult for them to hear. At one point, Derek asked for the house speakers to be cut because he wasn't able to hear the mix that he wanted to get on stage first just right, because the house sound was reverberating back in a way where it was causing kind of like a weird delay and like a cancellation. So it was getting difficult to hear what he wanted to do while the house sound was on. And then once they figured out the right levels, right mix, they had these plexiglass, almost like triangle, right angle shaped, I want to call them screens, but they're plexiglass, and they go in front of the super reverbs, the amplifiers, and in front of the drum set, so that they can change the wave patterns and like where the reflections go, so that they can fine tune, where these negative interactions happen and where the positive ones happen, so that they can basically like tweak the ambience and the timbre of the room, right?
Oh man, you're such a nerd. I appreciate that. That's cool. That's cool to hear all this, to see all some of the nuts and bolts and how the sausage and gets made. We don't have to dive too deep into the sound check. It's probably not public consumption anyway. But you could share anything that jumps out at you, like stuff like that. I think is perfectly okay. Just them.
Yeah.
You know what? I have a question, like, because you know about this stuff, without going into too much detail.
Yeah.
What? How do they figure it out? Like factor in that there's going to be an audience there, because those are like people and temperature, like, so you have to, like, I guess when you're configuring sound and all that stuff, don't they have to factor in like the audience? You do exactly, and that's actually a physics problem that I literally studied this in school in one of my acoustics classes, where you do you take the assumption of like an average human body, right, and all of the different properties that make up the human body, and then you are like kind of make it's called a spherical cow, right? So if a farmer wants to know how much milk a cow produces, you say, well, if you assume that the cow is spherical, right, you can make a model of how much milk, right? So you start with the human, and then you can map out what the sounds will sound like in the room without the human, right? So all of the fabric, the walls, the materials that are there, whether it's wood or concrete, how deep it is, the dimensions, and you can map out what the sound will sound like with nobody in it, and then you can you basically do that by putting the seats up. And then all you really have to do is drop the seat. And when you drop the seat, it changes the pattern, and that's how the person's going to sit there. And then you can factor in, the density of a human and replicate that across each seat, and then you can run a model that will figure out how to account for the people in the theater versus not in the theater. Math and science.
Yep, precisely.
I got you. Well,
yeah.
I'll let you continue steering us along. We can get into the
the
shows as well.
So, I mean, it's pretty cool. So the thing that people like to talk about sometimes is like, oh, the set list is different, on the paper than what I saw on the show, right? And we've been hearing this term thrown around called an audible, right? Kind of like a play in football where like a call, a quarterback will make a call on a play that they want to do that's different than what he and the coach agreed on the paper, right?
Right.
And so Susan, a lot throughout the sound check, and as did Derek, they called audibles, so there was people who were, like starting to, run a little lick just to like noodle around, and Susan would be like, oh, let's run that, or they would play a slight like start of a song and then be like, oh yeah, let's run that. And one thing that I specifically found interesting during the run of Outside Woman Blues, which I had been tracking this a little bit throughout the tour on my own notes. So when they start off this song, it seems like around like the Red Rock show is when I noticed it getting like picked up and like being like solidified into something. And this was in I think like 2023. When they start the Outside Woman Blues song, they do a duel between Derek and Susan. And for this tour, it had been, what it seems, supported by Isaac, Falcon, Brandon, and Gabe. And there was a discussion that was going on that, like, it seems like there's a lot going on, because when there's the transition between Derek's part and Susan's part, there's now, like, 4 other instruments playing, and if it's not tight, it doesn't sound like a tight intro. It kind of sounds like a lot going on. And so one of them had suggested, and I won't, call out who, but one of them had suggested that something's got to give there in order to tighten it up, referring to the keys, bass, and drums all playing together. So what happened was it ended up going where they suggested that they alternate drummers, drop the keys, and have just bass play solid throughout the whole time. And when Derek was playing his intro solo, Isaac was playing drums with him. And then it would swap, and Susan would take over, and Falcon would drum. So they have this kind of X pattern going back and forth, all being rooted in Brandon, and it really tightened up. And then they basically stopped after running the intro. They didn't even play the whole song. They literally just ran the intro, and then that was it. Nice. and moved on. And soundcheck lasted about an hour, and then maybe give it like 2 hours, and that's when doors open up. So great thing to be able to see, honored to be able to see it, privileged to be able to see it, and certainly something not to take for granted. To quote a song off "I Am the Moon," stop taking our love for granted.
No, that's awesome that you get.
But
a little bit how the sausage gets made, and
absolutely, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah. So, do you have any other questions about the sound check, or do you want to get into the set list, the show?
Do the set list.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So, so we've got the set list pulled up here, and this was the one.
This was accurate.
Yeah. So, well, there's 3 songs on here that are not accurate. That are wrong, which were audibles that were called throughout the show and swapped. This set list here has some markings on it in Sharpie, as this is Ryan Murphy's copy. Ryan is Susan's guitar tech, and so you can see the different notes for when she uses Les Paul, or when she's not playing a guitar, there's an X. If she has a Strat or something like that. Let's see, what is that? Oh, when she has her telly, right? So it switches back and forth there. And there's also a note there for Midnight for Mike for the acoustic. But so you can see that the set list here, and for those listening, I'll read it out loud, is written as "Here, My Dear." Then we have 44 Blues, "Do I Look Worried?" "Yes, We Will," "Come and Go Blues," "Smoke Ring Halo," which is a Wood Brothers cover. And then we've got "Outside Woman Blues," then "La Di Da," "Passaquan," "Just Won't Burn," "Everybody's Got to Change Sometimes." And then we've got "Just Won't Burn," which is the Susan Tedeschi cover that she had off of her that she just re-released, basically, that 25th anniversary of that album. And then after that was "Everybody's Got to Change Sometime." And then in place of "Last Night in the Rain," which is written on the set list, they did "Don't Think Twice, It's All Right." And then what's written next is "Midnight in Harlem," but in place of that, they did "Anyhow." And then the last song of the evening before the encore was "I Want More" and "Bex Bolero," which is written there.
I've heard the "I Want More" and the Bex Bolero. There's the YouTube video of that.
Yep.
And the what Replace Midnight?
So what Replace Midnight was "Anyhow."
I think I heard "Anyhow" also.
Yep.
44 Blues is cool. I like that they're adding that one back into the fold. That's fun. It's a fun Derek tune.
Yes.
Cool slide.
Yeah.
Going on.
And he really loves that one too, because when he first walked out at like 4:00 for the sound check to start, like that was the first thing he played when he picked up the guitar and plugged it in. Was like he started just riffing on 44, and Isaac and Brandon kind of filled in, and it was just like he was having a great time with it, and like you saw like.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's as catchy to him as it is to us.
Absolutely. And I think I made a mistake when recounting because of my I swapped the line. So it's just outside. So after "Smoke Ring Halo," "Outside Woman Blues," "La Di Da," "Passaquan," "Just Won't Burn," "Everybody's Got to Change Sometime," then "Don't Think Twice," "Anyhow," "I Want More," Bex Bolero.
Yeah, I'm paying attention too.
Yeah. Then So
yeah, you can speak on whatever jumps out at you, I guess.
Yeah, so one interesting note is in Passaquan. So Derek quite literally played a note-for-note hint of Mountain Jam in the opening before even hinting at his own melody of Passaquan. So he did the ba-da-dum, 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 dum, bum, ba-da-dum. So he played that line direct, note for note, and then went into Passaquan, the ba-dum, ba-da-dum, bum, right? So, which was just really, really interesting to hear him like actually acknowledge and explore that this is his Mountain Jam, his magnum opus, right? I always like to say, this is his like masterpiece. So it's nice to see him pay homage to the Allman Brothers and to Dwayne. And then you've got Gabe taking over the horn parts on the turnarounds for Anyhow, because so usually the horn parts, they go the bum bum ba ba da ba da bum bum ba dum bum bum ba da da, and without the three horn parts there for the first few couple notes, it felt kind of like
Gabe played the keys. You're saying that?
Yes,
I see, yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
So it felt kind of like empty, right, with no horns there. And Gabe heard that, Derek heard that. They looked at each other, and immediately Gabe goes ba 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 da ba da ba ba and fills in for the horn part.
Yeah, that's cool. That's I heard that. Susan came in early on one of the verses.
Yeah.
That's the show.
Not to my recall. I would have
maybe not, because I listen to a lot of live music. What else I heard?
Yeah, I would have written it. I think I would have written it down. But also, I don't like to write down Susan's errors so much, because I know that that's a thing that frustrates anybody too. So I don't try to like write down errors per se. I just write down like interesting things.
Yeah,
but
that's cool. To me, that kind of makes them human, and
yeah,
it's not
yeah.
heard on there.
No, for sure.
But yeah, it makes them human.
For sure.
But they never like miss a note, and
no,
it doesn't take away from my experience.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
You know, they play a lot of songs in a lot of shows.
Oh yeah, and they really squeezed a lot of songs in, because they came out, started directly 8:06 and played straight through until 9:48. So they gave a pretty solid show, like an hour and 42 minutes of straight playing, you know. And then came out about a minute later. It was just Gabe and Susan. They came out and did I Can't Make You Love Me. And then to start Made Up Mind, Derek teased Crow Jane leading into the song, and just played a little hint at it, and Susan laughed, and everybody kind of laughed at it and thought it was great. And then he just went bum 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 and closed out the show. And so it's written on the set list as I Can't Make You Love Me, How Blue. And I kind of like the ending that we got more, because it was a really high energy ending, super high energy, and great way to end the show. And it closed out at 9:58 promptly, so just before the 10 p.m. cutoff.
How was the crowd? Was the crowd like all TTB people? Was it club members?
So it was all club members who were able to, subscribe, and then of that subset, I would say the venue was pretty filled with TTB fans. I mean, I know I saw a lot of the local people. Scott was there. Let's see. Janet was there.
The various fan groups.
Various like local. Yeah.
Right.
Various local circles.
That's what I figured. It's like, how far is this from Boston and the area that grew up and spent time in? I'm guessing not too far. So
not that far.
Just
no.
Like through osmosis, diffusion, whatever. Like you're gonna get a amount of TTB fans and club member overlap. Anyway, I'm guessing. For sure. Did it feel like a hometown vibe show a little
absolutely. And I mean, even the Cabot email here from the venue says that it's a hometown show for them. So that it's like it felt like a hometown show, which is great. She's from Norwell, so not too far from here. Not too far. But
and how was that was the demographics of the show, I guess. But what about like were they? I should have.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask about were they standing, sitting?
Yeah,
standing?
right. So, very interesting that you asked that question, because there was an email that came out from the venue. I don't actually know if you have this image, but maybe there's a way I could.
I didn't grab that one, but I
All right.
grab that one.
So I'll
standing and dancing, basically.
I'll read it, the verbiage, and I know that from experience there are other people who've been to venues in the UK, and Ticketmaster writes a very similar message that I'm about to read, that's bolded here, and this was sent out by the Cabot, by the venue, prior to the show, same day, to all patrons going to make everyone aware and set expectations. So it says, "Dancing allowed. This is a jam dance show. Standing and moving is allowed in your seats in all seating locations. There's no standing or dancing in the theater aisles or in the back aisle, as these areas must be kept clear by security due to fire safety regulations. Questions? Email us." And then they give the Cabot's box office email address. And what I find interesting about this is I actually commended someone on the team, Maureen, who runs the Cabot members email address list and a lot of other things at the venue. And I told her that I really appreciated the verbiage, and she said, "Oh, I'm really glad to hear that, because we specifically, spoke about this and spoke with management, and they really wanted us to ensure, to our Cabot members, to the people who are not TTB fans, that there are people who are TTB fans who will want to stand, and that this is a standing show, and that they want to set the expectation ahead of time for folks so that people go in on the same page, knowing that there may be people who will stand and dance, and that as long as we all work together and, are considerate of those around us, right, that it's a standing jam expected to occur." And I
feel I feel like what you just said was almost even, not that this is not polite. I have it in front of me too. But they just were pretty clear about it, and that's cool. That it is kind of the artist's choice, and that's I think that's pretty fair. The advance notice, if you're not prepared or don't want to go to a show that's like this, don't buy a ticket.
Well, that's not even that message. What they say is email us, and they might work with you. There's open seats, so they had open seats available the same day of the show. So someone might have said, "Look, I don't want to be blocked by somebody. Oh, we have a seat that's on the second row in the balcony. No one will stand up in front of you there. If you'd like to sit there, we can seat you there. They'll work with you." So it seemed like they were willing to accommodate folks who wanted to sit, stand, whatever. They were like, but they're setting an expectation, which I think is really key.
Yeah, no, that's commendable. I was almost, because I'm in your camp, and I want to be able to stand or dance and do all these things anyway. But I was ready to play devil's advocate a little bit, but I don't really have any devil's advocate. For that.
Yeah, no, and I understand why, and I think it's because of the way that it's worded and the way that it is on the UK ticket too, is this. Everyone in that venue buys a access point to a seat, but just because you have access to that seat, it does not require you to sit in that seat. You can do whatever you want in your little space.
That stuck with me, that as a solution, the on the ticket kind of,
right.
Well, the pre-email or the on the ticket info that this could. It's a good to encourage like politeness, and that's kind of what everyone like everyone who I know, like yourselves, who stands, no one's looking for a confrontation or an issue or anything like that. So like, you try to be polite. No, you stand here, I'll sit here. You stand, or I'll move here for this song. Maybe you work it. I'll buy you a drink if you don't throw yours at mine.
Right.
Even though drinks getting expensive.
And that's the thing. I understand where the debate is too, where like some people want to sit, some people want to stand. I personally am in the stand camp because I'm young and I want to, quote, fish, live while I'm young, right? And enjoy myself at a concert while also being respectful of those around me. If someone wants to, sit, I'm going to swap seats with them so I'm not blocking them. Someone here, Garrett Strand, I wish more venues would inform people like that for not just TTB shows, but other similar artists as well. And I agree, because the jam band scene, yes, it attracts a wide variety, a wide range of audience members. And while we want to make sure that everybody is accommodated for, you don't also want to yell at a young crowd member who will probably never want to go to a show again, which I've heard many people tell me that, you know, they've had, you know, expletives yelled at them, things thrown at them, and I don't tolerate that. I won't stand for that. Like, I'll call it out if someone's being rude to someone, or me, you know, that's, you know, I don't want to cause a problem with anyone, but I also don't want anyone to, you know, do harm to someone in a way that is, you know, not in line with the music that we're all listening to, right?
People just crazy. Some people just crazy, and they're almost like going to the show, like they're almost like ready for it. I think some of the people who are like sitters, I feel like they go there. Some of them are angry and going to the show like expecting and looking forward to the confrontation. Like, I don't know, but it should never be. They make it about themselves. The sitters who are sitting make it more about themselves than the people who are standing. It sounds counterintuitive, but I think that's what plays itself out a lot of the time.
And the band also gets energy from seeing people, you know, standing and dancing. You know, because you could tell as soon as the crowd in the floor. You know, there were like pockets with people like in rows, you know, standing and whatnot. Some people were sitting, but for the most part standing down there. And in the upper parts, for the early part of the show, into the middle part of the show, most people were sitting. And because I was up more towards the front, I didn't want, you know, I had asked people ahead of time. I was like, is it okay if I, you know, I'm just going to let you know I want to dance. And everybody saw the email and they're like, oh yeah, go ahead. And afterward, people told me like, we thought you were going to get up and dance sooner, but I didn't want to be rude to those who hadn't stood yet. I was kind of checking behind me to see if everybody behind me stands so that then I could go ahead and be all right with it.
Yeah,
because I'm still...
I'm not always the first person to light up the joint. I kind of sometimes wait till someone else lights up. Okay, now it's time to...
Exactly.
Be the first person to dance. I get it. It's human nature.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. You're just kind of easing your way into it, sounds like.
Yeah, but once I stood up, I mean, you know, everybody else behind me was also standing up, and at one point, a very nice woman came down and was like, I thought she was going to yell at me for standing, and she goes, I just want to let you know, I love your vibe, I love what you're doing, keep doing it, okay, bye, alright, have a good show, and just went right back up to the top of wherever she was. She was like, I'm a few rows behind you, but I love your energy, and I was like, okay, this is great. And everybody had a great time.
Yeah, I stand at home. I stood for like the entire just watching the Berkeley show on the on the stream. Even last night I went to this comedy show and they had this like this duo playing before the show, and it was just like a drummer and the keyboard player, but they were rocking out and jamming, and I'm like I can't sit like in this packed in little row, and like I felt like cramped in. Like I'm not like necessarily like dancing like disco dancing on the side, but I need to be. My body needs to be more free and just standing. It's like better energy. Like it's hard for me to sit.
And there was really no excuses in that venue too for standing because they really worked hard to have many rows that have additional leg room and like additional standing room. So it seems like they've like taken into account to make sure that people aren't like cramped in, and that those that want to sit, you know, will have.
What a great experience!
But it's awesome. It was great.
It sounds like here, Bob Ozzie here. Always get an aisle seat so I don't block anyone just in case. He has mentioned that before. Always gets an aisle seat.
Yeah. I will say I did go ahead of time and email the venue and was like, look, I'd like to buy a seat all the way in the back row there that's up against a wall so that I can stand so I don't block people. And they were like extremely happy that I had reached out and was considerate to like, you know, even do that. And then I saw the email from them come in about the standing in the same day, and I was like, okay, when I get to the box office, I'm gonna get the seat that I want to sit in, because, you know, if we're allowed to stand, I don't care where I'm sitting. I don't want to sit in the back. I want to sit further up. The floor seats were more expensive and out of my price range, so I didn't want to get priced out, but I wanted to also be able to see Derek and Susan and the band.
Getting tickets can be so stressful. I feel like do I want to be close? Do I want to be to the side? Do I want to be the back? Am I going to be able to move around? Am I going to be able to be stuck? Like, there's such a strategy. I want to be in the back of the lower section, but I'm not exactly 6'6", so that's another thing that has to be factored into consideration. I'm a dancing fool, at TTB says.
Oh yeah, me too, Bob. Me too, Bob. Me too.
Sometimes I'm just a fool. Not even when I don't even have to be dancing. That too, though. Yeah,
no. I mean, I kind of picked up my dancing from like the Deadhead crowd kind of thing, because when I was a kid, I've said this before, I think on the pod. Like, so my dad took me to a bunch of like Phil Lesh and like The Dead and like, you know, all this great like jam band music in like 2006. So I was like 10 years old, and I see all these people like swaying and doing all these like, you know, like cool like hippie things, and so like I'm like, oh, so this is how people dance at a jam band show. Okay, yeah. And then I just vibed out and like felt it, and then I've ever since I've just like been like, yeah, this is the kind of vibe I feel.
Yeah.
And
the white people jam band dance.
Yeah, the dad yacht rock kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, at some point or not at some point, but like it's just be yourself and be authentic and be silly. And I mean, it's commendable. Sometimes I feel like I'm too self-conscious about things and need to let loose more, so to speak.
For sure. Yeah.
What else you want to talk about that jumps out at you about the show? Anything else we should talk about? I could pull the set list back up if you want.
That'd be great. So let's see. The Come and Go Blues was really good for that evening, and let's see. There was I think it's, you know, it was exceptionally good because Gabe ran that like a few times during sound check. And one thing, and the reason I keep going to sound check is because it helps represent kind of, you know, what was really like solid during the show, what was run. So the interesting thing that happened during soundcheck that was not saw out during the show, but I assume will be shown out at another point when they play it. They ran Little by Little, but they paused midway because they wanted to run the pickup to the intro to the song over and over again to get the timing right with the drums and everything. They ran it 9 times in a row. The bum 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 bum. Right? So 9 times over and over again to get that right. And they did that not that many times on other songs as well, but enough to where you're like, okay, so they really want to tighten up transitions. They want to tighten up pickups and all sorts of like breaks and stops like that. They ran the guitar break for Presence of the Lord at least twice in a row, which was not played out during the show. But they did rehearse Anyhow, and they rehearsed Come and Go Blues, Smoke Ring Halo, 44, Hear My Dear, Outside Woman, and then a little bit of La Di Da. And so it was kind of nice to see from fly on the wall position, from like, you know, working out little things, rehearsing. As you said, they were on break, you know, between between the spring and the summer legs of the Deuces Wild tour. So this was like an off tour time, so they'd been away for a little bit. They needed to tighten some stuff up, just as any band does.
Right.
You know?
It's almost like a sports team if you have like a break before the playoffs starts.
Yeah.
And you can become a little bit rusty, not in terms of like their talent, but those, like you said, I think it's interesting to speak to the transitions, because it's like, you know, there's even with just, what was it, 7 people?
Yep. 7.
That's still that's more than one person. So like all the transitions is where they, you know, I can see why they're focusing on that, when you have to get all these moving parts synced up, like when things change. Like I guess like the verses for any song, I guess, and the choruses can, I guess, become even a little bit more like on autopilot, for less of a term, but the transitions need to be on time, and that's something that I guess can be not as sharp if you go X amount of days, and they're doing it with the new with a different lineup. So yeah, I'm sure that's something that they focus on. Interesting.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see too them focusing on recognizing that as a member group of 7 this time around, that their wall of sound, their sound garden, right, is some parts are removed, so some parts of the garden are pulled, so you know you're not getting that frequency sound space filled by the horns and by Alicia and Mark, right, as well. So Gabe had to pick up a lot of vocal help that night in order to pick up on harmony parts to help on a lot more songs than he normally would have. Because again, 2 vocalists out and the horn parts out, so he was getting a lot more play.
Yeah, there's a lot of they have to adjust what they're doing and their actual parts in the songs, but also like you're speaking to the sound, the engineering, and how it's produced. This has to be
Yeah.
taken just how it's put together. Garrett actually has a question for you that you might have the answer to or insight to about Derek's guitars. I've noticed Derek has a couple of Gibson SGs that he uses. One has a pickup, one doesn't. Any insight to why he removed it on one guitar and not the other?
Absolutely. I would love to answer this question. Can you leave the question up there, actually? Is that possible?
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So a couple of different SGs are the same. So they're all around the 60, like the Gibson SG 1961 year model, which has that super nice profile on that neck. It's got a super lightweight body. The only difference here, the one with the pickguard on it, is a specific artist model called From One Brother to Another. And it is the Dickie Betts / Dwayne Allman Gibson SG artist model series. A limited run of the guitars. A few of that, like a limited number, were made into the aged style, the Murphy age. So that came out of the Murphy Labs that Gibson has. Relicked to look identical 1-to-1 to the guitar that Dickie Betts gifted to Dwayne Allman, which Derek has played actually quite a few times. Warren Haynes has played it sometimes as well. Galadriel Allman owns that guitar, and it's sometimes in the museum at Big House. It sometimes goes around, travels to different places. It's showed up at different museums, and it's toured. But now that Derek has that artist model, so he didn't get one of the ones that went out for sale, but he has an artist model, which is basically a pre-proof, right? So like a proof of the guitar, of what Dickie would approve, Dwayne Betts would approve, Derek would approve, Warren Haynes would approve. So they all like gave them an artist copy before it went out. So that they could give their own suggestions and tweaks. And so that's the one that has the pickguard on it, and it's modeled after that 61 SG. And the other one that Derek has, which is the one with no pickguard, it has that little metal tailpiece, that tailplate on the front, which is a Vibrolux piece, and it's basically on the kind of guitar that has the little whammy bar, but Derek's does not have the whammy bar piece. Instead, he replaced it for a tail stop piece, which is just kind of what's on the regular standard SGs. And the reason for that is because when you have a whammy bar on there, the intonation doesn't stay as well because it can flex more, so the strings have a more ability to go in and out of tune.
Even when you're not using the whammy bar?
Even when you're not using the whammy bar, yes. It doesn't. The intonation doesn't hold as tight because remember, it's on a spring, right? So that spring has some give, and even still, it can not hold as tight. And it can give out more, and so when you dig in real deep and give it like a bend and stuff, right, and dig in there, when you come back out and you try playing the string open again, you'll notice that it's actually slightly flat, because it's not necessarily intended to use a whammy bar with bending, right? Because you would essentially, if you were going to get a bend, you'd want to use that whammy bar to bend it up, or pull it back to bend it the other way to change the note pitch. So so Derek swapped out that. So it was on a 2001 Gibson SG Standard 61. So a Gibson SG 61 copy that was produced in the year 2001, and he pulled the pickguard plate, the half-wing pickguard. He pulled it off because when he was a kid, he stopped playing with a pick pretty quickly. There is one video of him where he's got the pick between his fingers here, like this, and you'll see him playing guitar with his fingers, but he still had a pick because from time to time he would use it, but he stopped using it very quickly. And so he realized he didn't need the pickguard on there, it was getting in the way, his fingernails scraping, whatever. So he took it off, and it's got the holes in it, so you'll still see the holes there for where the pickguard would go. And so those two different guitars basically are his main go-to guitars. More so now he sticks with the Dickie Betts one. And you'll notice that the 2001 61 SG was given a replica artist model series in 2011, and they ran that series again in 2013 and again in 2015. And so he worked with Gibson to produce a limited number run of Gibson SGs that were modeled after his 2001.
You got one?
I actually have one coming in the mail. It's actually amazing. I was able to snag one on Reverb. I was watching these prices, and they go down from time to time, but I've never seen one dip below $2,000, which was kind of closer to what the retail price was when it went on sale. And I was like, oh, damn, there's one in Louisiana, and it's free shipping, and I'm grabbing it. So I've got it, and it's on the way.
Wow, congratulations on that.
Thank you. And I'm really excited about it.
I forget who posted it, but in one of the fan groups, someone posted themselves at Guitar Center playing Susan's... I
was going to get to that, too.
Fender Tele. I should go into a store and fiddle around on that and post content.
Yeah.
Tag people.
So the second that I was able to find this SG, this Derek one, I was like, okay, so now I know that Susan's got her Tele too, and I'm gonna absolutely get my hands on one of those, and I need to do a photo op of the two of them. I need to have them side by side, and I'm gonna play the sorry, can I curse on this podcast? I'm going to play the shit out of these guitars, so it's not like I'm just like getting them to have them in my room. I'm going to play the heck out of these guitars, and they're going to sound amazing. And the thing about Susan's Tele is it's based off of her second guitar that she got, not her first one. So it's a 1993 Fender Telecaster. I think it's like Sea Mist Green or something, or like Caribbean Mist, right? Something like that. And it's a really, really beautiful color with a tortoise shell pick guard, super cool. And the pickups are also interesting. They're not humbucker pickups. I forget what they're, but there's like a thin bar, like a metal bar, and then the other one's like a single coil pickup in the bridge. It's a super, super cool guitar, super tony. And like it's got like a specific neck shape that she requested custom. It's called like a C-shape neck. And it's supposed to be super smooth, super nice. So I've got something lined up for that too. I'm gonna figure out how to get myself one of those.
This is a dumb idea. Most people probably think it's a dumb idea, but could you get an artist to replicate all the signatures on I guess it's dumb to replicate signatures.
Yeah.
But that is part of like the look of their guitar also. It's a big part of it, at least. It stands out, like all the signatures on it, but like it doesn't seem as cool to me to have like not real signatures on it just because it would be the Susan. It would look exactly like that. And it is kind of a dedication to the people that whoever has signed it. Like work on like a map of all the Susan signatures with like links you can click on, an image, and you click on all the links and it goes.
I think someone tried doing that. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I think that's come out. And you also need like a side-by-side of the Derek's two guitars.
Yeah.
Like a brief paragraph explanation.
Yeah.
About it. ChatGPT is not always accurate with this stuff. I don't know what this is in reference to, but damn Zach Nice says Kirk.
Probably
Bob Ozzie likes it. Zach is the man. Garrett says great info. Yeah, I appreciate all the info and the knowledge.
Oh yeah, sure.
I'm just this is a lot of this is even like beyond my scope, but like I think I have a decent. I play guitar myself. But I'm not as tech, as much of a gearhead, I guess, in that regard. But people are interested in this stuff, and I'm like, it makes me, appreciate the. I mean, all these conversations that I have make me appreciate the band and how hard they work to bring this together and everyone connected to them. So just to hear little details about sound check and the gear stuff and what goes into putting the sound together and not taking that for granted just makes, for a deeper, richer, more meaningful experience for me as a fan. So I appreciate all the knowledge, even if I'm like, where's he going with this talk? What the hell is he talking about with this? Like, how this amp works in this sound? Do I gotta like take a science class to figure out what he's talking about? But but yeah, a lot of people do appreciate all these details and and insights for sure.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I love the specifically the gear section of the TTB Swamp Family app. Bobby Tees goes in there from time to time, and there's a question that's actually relevant to what we're talking about now. So even I described the Dickie Betts guitar, and even then I was thinking about it, and I don't know how much these I want to get into, but it's so cool since people are liking these questions. I'll go in. So there's the standard pickups that came with that model, and then they swapped it out. So there was a pair of 62 Gibson PAF T-top humbuckers in there, which are like the standards that come with it, but they removed the cover on the bridge pickup, so it looks like he's like two black coils, and some people think that he swapped out the pickup, but he didn't. It's the original pickup that comes with the amp. It's with the guitar rather. It's just they took off the cover because it wasn't attached well, and it sounded better when it was off. So sometimes things just are done because they're done, and they work because they work, right? And better to just like leave it as is, right? And so I just find that really interesting, Derek's gear, and that they're very picky and specific about, he knows what he wants from his guitar. He knows the sound that he wants. He knows what he wants from his amps. And they're really cool about, sharing that information, because I think Bobby in the backstage tour gives a lot of this information too, and a lot of inside knowledge. I haven't gone on it yet myself, but I've got 2 of them lined up, and I'm super excited about what he's going to go into. And I'm going to really try hard to not talk and just do a lot of listening. And see, which is going to be, which as people who listen to this show, it's very hard for me. So, and I can,
you got good knowledge and a lot to share, but you definitely recognize when it's time to listen, and everybody appreciates Bobby and the work that he does, and whatever knowledge is passed along from Bobby T's to fans, because a lot of fans are like musicians and sound and in work in music and are musicians, like, who need to have this knowledge, whereas I'm just hanging out, and like I had him on, of course, and that was awesome, and hear about his journey, and TTB life was great. But he's often very happy to share knowledge, and it's cool to see that being spread to the fans. What a special fan base. Kirk says the work you two are doing now to document things 2 years from now and beyond, people are going to be besides themselves that you guys took the time to document this shit. I appreciate that. I think that's about both of us. Interpreting that correctly. Thank you, Kirk. He goes by Kirka. Bobby's tour is great. Everybody says great, and you never know who you're gonna see.
That's true.
Wandering around at these tours. And get to talk to and interact with and get a photo with. Garrett, Bobby T's is one of the best in the business. Not only talented with what he does, but a super nice guy. I always ask about like other people's fandom experiences with other bands and artists and fan communities, and it doesn't seem like anything really compares to what I guess we have in a lot of ways. Not to downplay, downgrade, offend, whatever, like other bands and their fan bases, but there's something different and special about this, I think, just with the amount of like access, and it's not just like what you're describing at this experience. It's a different kind of access to information, access to a community, access to like, even we're speaking to like how cool the app is, and that it's always getting better, and the fan experiences are getting better. Who the hell was I talking? Just my friend last night about what Topeka did with the Sun, Sand, and Soul and shows, and just like what this show is, just like it's getting the customer service is being taken maybe into consideration more and more, or we appreciate when we see that it's the band is mindful of the fan experience. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm just ranting about this.
Well, no, what's great too though is that this band has a fan base that is actually using the tools that are provided by the group that the band is hiring to do their customer service and artist relations management, right? So like the folks who are doing the PR and the interface, it seems like they are relying on us to produce that content, and it's really been great to see them accepting the amount of content that you and I have been providing there, and allowing us to share stuff there, and that they encourage it, and that
I was just not clear, but and feedback. I've heard people asking for help or making suggestions, reasonable, more about the app and related to the app, and and they do get responses in this similar to like the Topeka and even like last your experience at this show. Just like it's nice to have that human connection and good vibes all around. Like not walk into a venue and feel like you're like about to be accused of something or you're doing something wrong before you're doing something wrong. Kind of vibe.
And I mean, look at that Nugs deal that they were able to strike up, right? So that was all, in part due to a lot of fans many times over asking, release this show. Can we get this show? Let's get some live stuff, multiple times over. And they had some internal discussions, figured out what they wanted to do, and they're, still discussing, like, what do we do next? And so there's more to come, and there's more to come down the pipeline, and I'm really excited to see where this band is going to take things. I feel like everybody who's been a fan for the last 10 years now has been on the ground floor of an elevator that is like getting ready to kick off and just skyrocket to the, to the moon. And so we're all on this crazy ride, and I feel like everybody that's on board, just grab a friend, grab two friends, get people in, and give them anything to listen to. Tell them to subscribe to, like, give them like a 30-day anything. Give them something. Buy them like a month for, I don't know, like a Father's Day present, July 4th, whatever, a birthday. Tell them, listen to these shows, just listen to it. You'll love me, you'll thank me later, and then we'll be able to build a I don't know, as many fans as possible to get on board whose hopefully their lives will change for the better, because it changed my life for the better.
They do. It does, and the music does, and people keep telling me that, and you're not the only one, and I'm not the only one. I think of Ulf in Australia. I don't know if you heard that episode or saw that.
Yeah.
Clips, that the guy who literally discovered TTB at a festival, never heard of him, never heard any music, somehow just missed it. But like it was the culmination of all his musical tastes, and he described it in the band really in the same ways that all of us hardcore fans do, in terms of how they share the stage and work together and stand out, and they're all amazing musicians. Like it was, we'll see what the future has in store for this band. It's hard to even comprehend. I can't keep mentioning, or I have about like, oh, when are they going to do the Super Bowl halftime show? When is the SNL? When it's like, because it's not the talent, it's not the songs, it's just like people just don't know.
And they try
that's my opinion,
so hard to break out into all these different markets. They've tried very hard, like with all the different covers they've done, the different artists they try to work with, the different projects they do. And something has to give with where people got to talk about them, and they got to get into the 18 to 30 demographic is super important to make sure that they can solidify that. And I really think one of the ways to do that, and I don't know if you post on there, is TikTok. And I don't use it, but social media apps that have these like, these quick turnaround, like 30 seconds, something that can give somebody like if you had like a freaking excellent like 5-second soundbite of Derek doing something absolutely insane on, say, like Gravity, where he does that weird trill. If you could make that into a meme, like, I don't know, someone, like spilling like coffee or something, if like a car hits into them and you hear this like weird trill, turns out, oh, it's a Derek Trucks trill. Who's Derek Trucks? Oh, well, he's this guy. He's, the nephew of Butch, the Allman Brothers. Oh, he has his own band with his wife Susan. Oh, who are they? Oh, let me listen. Bonk. You have a new listener. Or like I just had a cable guy like from Verizon come like door-to-door sales to give us Verizon or something, and he goes oh, what's your shirt? I go, oh yeah, it's a band, Tedeschi Trucks Band. He goes, oh, what's that? I gotta listen. I'm always looking for like niche like weird music. I was like, oh yeah, here, put on Revelator when you go home and let me know what you think. He texts me like the next morning. He goes, dude, Revelator killed. What else do they have? I'm like, listen to Everybody's Talking and then thank me. And he'll be like, and he was really happy about it. And wear the shirts out more, because people will talk about it. Now, I had like 5 or 6 people on the Cape a couple weeks ago tell me like, oh, I know Tedeschi Trucks Band, or oh, I saw them at the Garden, or whatever. They're getting talked about more, and if you wear the shirt and talk about it, people are happy to talk about it. So I would recommend that.
I talk about them all the time, even to people who don't know. And I have my whole like my speech ready to go.
Sure you do.
Like you know Tedeschi Trucks Band, you know the Allman Brothers. Have you heard of Susan Tedeschi? And then I kind of explain 12-piece blues rock, blah blah blah. I have my whole spiel.
Your elevator pitch.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Anything else you want to mention or talk about? I think we cover it all.
I think we got everything.
Yeah,
but I wanted to thank the folks again at the Cabot Theater, Maureen, Carla, Kimberly, all these like wonderful people who put on. Jonathan from the box office, who were able to put this whole thing together, and the secret show and everything, and keep it so that they could, keep this whole thing going. And I really want to thank them for doing this, and for reaching out to Tedeschi Trucks and working with them to do this. It was an honor, privilege to be there, and I would happily go to the Cabot again for any show, not just Tedeschi Trucks, but for that. But for if they bring them back, I'll always be there. So I want to just thank them personally, because I had a wonderful experience, and everybody else who was there will also say the same. I hope that they had a great time.
Yeah, I've seen some other people posting about, and it seems like the reviews are in. It was an amazing experience, a great night all around. When's your next show? Do you have anything to be on the calendar?
Yeah, I'm potentially looking at SPAC, and I know this happened last summer where I got on your podcast and I was like, I'm potentially looking at SPAC.
And you went, and then you came on to recap it.
Yeah, and I eventually came into recap, right? So who knows? Could happen again. We'll see. Cool. I'm gonna pull something, see what happens. And then after SPAC, I'm gonna skip out New Hampshire again. It's a bit of a drive for me. But then looking at October, I'm thinking I'm gonna go. So I've got three shows lined up. October 1st at the MGM, and then October 4th and October 5th at the Wang, so the Botch Center. So all three Boston shows basically.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I've got one non-TTB show. I know, shocker. Sometime in August, like early August, I'm going to be at the Leader Bank Pavilion to see J-Rad, because, I got to get back to my Grateful Dead roots, of course, and J-Rad's a great band.
Grateful Dead was your favorite band, I think you said before.
Yep.
TTB.
That's right.
And then TTB came... I'm sure we went through this whole conversation, but like...
Oh, yeah.
You were more or less converted and became... Like, when did TTB become your favorite band?
So the conversion kind of started where it went from Dead through Warren Haynes in the Dead in 2009 when he played with Phil and Bobby. And then my dad was like, oh, so you like Warren? Okay, so let's go see Allman Brothers. We saw that, so let's go see that. So then I see Derek and Warren playing side by side, and I'm like, holy shit, I freaking love this. And then Derek's playing, and my dad sees that Derek's got his own band, his own thing forming. We're too far along into the process, though, for me to have ever seen a Derek Trucks Band show. Very unfortunate, very sad that I didn't get to. But it's okay, because I have all those tapes I can listen to.
Same.
And then, and then from there, Allman Brothers to Derek, and then the Derek and Susan, the rest is history.
Good stuff all around. I'll let you enjoy the rest. What time is it? It's after 8 o'clock on the East Coast.
Yep, that's right.
Still early on the West Coast. But thank you again for
the
recap, and Kirka thanks us as well. Thank you for the support, the chat, everyone. I'll boot you out and do my outro, and we can chat a little more offline after that.
Cool.
If you want. But
great.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And thank you to the listeners who listen to the podcast and keep the thing going, and really appreciate it. And thank you to Adam, of course, as always, for doing a great job hosting this show. So
cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers. All right. So there you go. What was that? Episode 160, recapping the private secret club members only show at the Cabot in Beverly, Massachusetts. Thank you, Zach, for giving me the recap and the boots on the ground. I feel like I was there. I feel, I always say that, that's the point of this for me, is to just, relive it, or live it like I relived it, if that makes any sense. Hope everyone's doing okay out there. Please check out @Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram. Subscribe on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. I'll get out the audio episode of this soon. Positive reviews are appreciated on Apple Podcasts. I am at Adam Choit on Instagram and Twitter, adamchoit.com for everything else, Tedeschi Trucks Podcast for everything related to the podcast, TedeschiTrucksBand.com. The band's official website. Buy tickets to shows, buy merch, download the app, do all the things, buy tickets to upcoming shows. I think I said that already. But thank you to the band, the crew, podcast supporters, all guests, fans. It's been a fun journey, and looking forward to recapping those Colorado shows soon, later into July. We'll see what else comes up. Who knows? I'll keep my eye out and ear out for anything that that Derek, Susan, the band are up to anywhere in the country. And if fans want to come on and talk about whatever they see and hear, whatever's going on out there, guitar releases going on, all kinds of things. Things are always happening with this band. It seems like there's no real break. But thank you again, everyone. But I think that's about all I got for today. Thank you as always, and let's talk soon. Peace.